Hello everyone and welcome to Forza Flashback episode 4. This time you're once again watching an online R1 class race from Forza Motorsport 2, however we're also on the Nissan Speedway Oval circuit, which is quite a rarity for me. This is the same lobby as in the previous video and was actually a really good one. It was just a bunch of guys really enjoying their racing without too many incidents, and the lobby leader would change the track after every race. Now back then, and even now I would say, I never really used to race on oval circuits as I found them quite boring, but knowing it would only be for one race I decided to stay in the lobby. I did change my car though, as the Ferrari I used in other races was all about cornering and braking in the way it was tuned. It didn't have much in the way of top speed, so I just chose a default R1 car that had the highest top speed and hoped for the best. So as you saw, I got a pretty slow start and was almost taken out by another player. Then two other cars get taken out and I'm playing catch up with the remaining four that are in front of me, one of which is miles ahead after a great start, and another of which is Timaloy, who I pointed out in the last episode. So I managed to catch up using a slipstream from the cars in front, and I moved to overtake the Ferrari in front of me. He's not as complicit as you might expect though, and bashes into me a few times, presumably to try and take me out. I remain unfazed by this though, and I do manage to get ahead. However, as Timaloy tries to overtake him, he gets a little bit too aggressive and ends up pretty much taking himself out of the race. It was all his own fault, so I have absolutely no sympathy for him at all really. Lap 3 starts now, and at this point I'm pretty much just hoping Timaloy gets in my slipstream and overtakes me. Now it may sound strange that I would actually want someone to overtake me, but with oval racing it's all about slipstreaming. Since there aren't any corners in which you need to brake, and you're pretty much at full speed for the entire race, the only way you can catch up to anyone else is by getting in their slipstream. Since the guy in first place is slightly too far ahead of me to be able to get into his slipstream, I need Timaloy to overtake me, and we can both catch up to first place together. I'd rather be in a three-way fight for first than settle for second on my own. So as you saw, Timaloy did manage to overtake me, and together we caught up to first place, creating a three-way battle for the win as we headed on to the final lap. We'll pick that up a little later though, as we're going to go through the race up to this point from the perspective of two other cars. We start on board the pole position man, and we see that the leader for 3 laps gets in front by driving up the inside right at the start. Behind, the Ferrari and Peugeot overtake on either side and chase down the leader. But as the Ferrari either loses control or deliberately drives into the leader, it sends him sprawling across the road and he collects the Peugeot, taking them both out of the race. Then we have 2 Ferraris chasing down second place, with me right behind them. As Timaloy misjudges his speed and almost goes into the back of the car we're following, the other Ferrari and myself managed to get ahead, albeit slowly but surely in my case. Basically, I'm just attempting to stay in the slipstream of anybody in front of me, and in the end that works out fine as I find myself in second place, despite almost being taken out by the Ferrari. And Timaloy obviously follows close behind, doing the same thing, and ends up being the car that causes the other Ferrari to take himself out of the race. Now we'll watch that little bit from Timaloy's point of view, and then watch the rest of lap 3 on board his car too as we chase down the leader. So as you can see, the other Ferrari simply tried to take Timaloy out of the race by ramming into him, but ends up taking himself out. Timaloy is then left to chase after me as we start to drive away from the pole sitter who's now in 4th place. He gets into my slipstream and very gradually catches up. It's a very slow process though, and he seems to be less smooth in the corners, causing him to catch up at a much slower rate. This was an important observation I made at the time in preparation for the last lap. He obviously manages to get past me though, as I was hoping at the time, and he sets off after first place, with me close behind. It doesn't take long to catch up, and we head into the final lap with a 3-way battle on our hands. So now we're back with me, and I follow Timmerloy in his slipstream as he overtakes the car who'd been in first place for the entire race. Now it's very important to note that I purposefully go wide on the first corner of the last lap. I purposefully didn't want to overtake Timmerloy. This is because I knew he'd simply be able to get in my slipstream and overtake me back before the final corner. Instead, I wanted to be the one overtaking on the final corner, since there'd be no chance left for him to get back at me. Now I already know from earlier that I'm quicker around the corners, so I catch up in his slipstream and after doing a little dummy to the outside, dive down the inside with a lot more speed. I know I'll be slower on the exit, but the run to the line is so short that it doesn't really matter, and I managed to pull off the win on the final corner. So as we watch that last section from Timmerloy's point of view, I'd just like to ask you what your opinions are of oval tracks and oval racing in general, especially compared to more normal circuit racing. Leave a comment below to let me know. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you next time.